19-player roster drops from Jesse Marsh. They'll have a training camp in Toronto before heading to Miami, and then heading to Suriname, and then back to Toronto for the second leg. Things stand out to you on this roster? I know Shola Jimo was certainly an exciting late addition to this team, Brendan.
Yeah, him and Richard Chukwu, who are the two non-MLS rostered guys, and obviously Jimo being the only CPL guy, which is great. And if not for Jules Anthony Vilcent not being able to participate in the camp, he was the original call. Jimo wouldn't get that opportunity. I think it's great. Whether these guys end up getting caps down the road or not, I think it's really good for the program, and it's really good to give guys who are deserving, real young guys, a taste of what a national team experience is like. We spoke with Bobby Smirnionis this week, an interview that you'll hear on NFP, and he talked about what it's like to invest in an infrastructure that is professional enough for players from other places to show up and be like, oh yeah, this is exactly what I need. This is exactly what I expect in a professional environment, which is still very new for us in Canada, right? And very much in the national team setup of things as well. So I really like that those guys are getting those chances. And for guys who are a little closer to making the roster, maybe like a Stephen Afrifa or Nathan Saliba being regular fits in there, it's another opportunity for Jesse Marsh to work with these guys and get to know them a little better, and that's all positive.
Yeah, it feels like a win-win-win, right? Like the win number one, you keep your guys fit. You obviously got a huge game in November. Canada's lucky. They're at a point now where they can put out 10 to 11 European starters, right? They can put out guys who are still playing in the MLS Cup playoffs. I'm sure they're pleased to see, the Whitecaps go a little deeper with Adekugbe and Ahmed, to see St. Clair and Oluwaseyi in Minnesota go a little deeper. But then, the depth helps, and there's a lot of key guys who won't be playing, like a Larea, right? Like an Azori who haven't been playing. Schaffelberg, another one. Of course, Schaffelberg not in this camp, which is a bit of a surprise. Imagine, I guess, it's just staying with his newborn, but it's,
new dad.
That's it. He's a busy guy, so
he's earned the rest. Give him the time.
That's it. He gets the time off, but it's good just to keep those guys fit, keep those guys sharp. It's a win because you're still able to call in some new names, right? I think that's a win. Like Richard Chukwu, who knows? He might not play for the national team for 5 years after this, but he's only 16. He gets a taste. He's been playing in the youth setups already. This stuff will only help him this is the level of an Azorio, a Larea, some pretty important contributors. I think it was cool to see Alessandro Biello included. Shola Jimo's great. If anything, as usual, I would have said, why not call in more, right? Like, of course, the guy they wouldn't have been able to get, but if he had been available, call Grady McDonald. He's called up to Ireland's U17s. That wasn't going to happen. But there's a few guys around the CPL you could have called in. But hey, they called in a lot at 19, like Ben mentions, a good number. And thirdly, this keeps Jesse Marsh moving. National team coach. It's a lot of scouting in between windows, a lot of meetings. This is just a chance for him to continue to coach, continue to drive in his philosophy with newer faces to expand the player pool. So that's the third win too. That's maybe a bit under the radar there.
Super quick point. I just want to piggyback off something he said. Marsh talks a lot about the national program benefiting guys outside of the national team setup. Like how it's not just about how they perform for Canada. It's how they continue to perform as professionals and how that will benefit Canada if you do things correctly. That goalkeeping trio, they all have like a lot to play for next season. And I do think that it's a very competitive group, regardless of who the three may be in terms of goalkeepers. We've heard that from all of the guys. Both James Pentimis and Max Crepeau have a lot to fight for and play for next year, as does Jonathan Sirois, who's is the number one guy, but Montreal want to take a considerable leap, and he had an excellent season. So I think they're all going to benefit from being around each other with that camp, and that's something that Jesse Marsh recognizes as well.
I think there's also a fourth win here in the fact that they can have an extended camp. They can afford to have an extended camp. They can afford to, presumably buy shirts and tracksuits for the rest of these players that come into the picture and will be properly outfitted, and presumably at this point won't have to give them back, as various stories from past years.
Presumably. Presumably. We don't know yet.
But that's a positive for me, too. It's like, Shola Jimo is going to get a kit, and maybe he's not called up for another 4 years. And that is a small win, but a win nonetheless.
Yeah, poor Tristan Borges doesn't have his kit from that one Canada camp. Marco Corducci had to give it back. Yeah, unfair.
Maybe
let's get them
shorts they have just they can use to train with every
exactly.
season.
CIBC, throw those guys some gear. Those guys that didn't get it before and deserve it.